3 Sinister True Night Drive horror stories that revealed spine-chilling secrets you must discover. As the clock struck midnight, Sarah gripped the wheel tighter, heart racing like a wild animal caught in a trap. The shadows of Maplewood stretched ominously across the deserted streets. Every night after her grueling shift as a night shift nurse, she dreaded the drive home. The moon hung low, draping the world in an ethereal glow, but there was nothing serene about it. It felt suffocating, like something was watching her from behind the thick canopies of trees. Each evening, she'd turn onto the lonely roads, those towering trunks casting slanted shadows. But tonight felt different. Her pulse quickened as headlights lit up her rearview mirror, 2 car-shaped phantoms tailing her like predators stalking prey. Their engines hummed with a ghostly quiet, a soft yet threatening growl that made her skin crawl. Maybe it was just fatigue. Or paranoia. She tried to shake it off, but tonight, everything changed. As she pulled into the local convenience store to grab a quick snack for Alex, Ted, the clerk, greeted her with a smile that felt too wide, too intense. "How's little Alex?" he asked, leaning across the counter with a familiarity that caused her stomach to knot. Hadn't he just mentioned Alex's favorite snack? Just last week? That was a detail she hadn't shared with anyone. "He's doing great," she stammered, her voice wavering. A trickle of sweat ran down her spine. "Just busy with school." The weight of his gaze lingered, a chill creeping into her bones as she exited the store, clutching the snacks with trembling hands. She glanced back and caught him smiling, an unsettling grin that didn't reach his eyes. As panic settled in her chest, Sarah stepped into the night once more, the oppressive darkness wrapping around her like a shroud. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As she drove away, her heart thudded like a war drum. The headlights behind her flickered, urging her to go faster. Was it the same car from earlier? It felt like they were closer now, the darkness swirling with every glance in the rearview. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the corner of her eye. It was Mrs. Miller, the sweet old lady from next door, waving from her porch. Wasn't she always baking cookies? Why did everything seem off? The whispers of her past tugged at Sarah's mind, stitching together strands of a fear she hadn't acknowledged, connecting dots in that broken light of uncertainty. The stoplight ahead turned red. The shadows gathered. The car slid beside her, its window tinted, faces obscured. Time paused, suffocating. Sarah gasped. Her mind raced to dark news stories of disappearances in Maplewood. Was her trusting neighbor, Mrs. Miller, hiding secrets in the guise of warmth? When the light finally shifted to green, her foot slammed on the gas, fear igniting within. Yet the darkness pressed closer, the haunting echo of unfamiliar vehicles tailing her home. Had she ventured into a horror that wouldn't let her escape? A chilling cry in the distance echoed her panic. Would she uncover the real secrets of her community, and perhaps the monster hidden behind friendly faces before it was too late? The exhilarating chaos of fear clawed at her mind as the looming question sank like a stone. Was she already too deep to turn back? The night seemed alive, thick with tension as Sarah's breath quickened, her palms slick against the steering wheel. Shivers danced down her spine each time she glanced at the rearview mirror, those headlights still close like vultures waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Her mind raced with possible escapes, but none felt safe. As the darkness swallowed the car, she turned onto a narrower road, flanked by thick woods on either side. The trees loomed like sentinels, bare and skeletal against the dim light, their shadows warping into grotesque shapes. The growing sense of isolation suffocated her, and her ears strained for any sound other than the rhythmic thump of her heart and the engine's hum. Then, laughter, a disembodied cackle that sliced through the oppressive silence. Sarah whipped around to find the source, fear knotting her stomach. But only the empty road stretched behind her. Was she losing it? A quick glance to the right brought Mrs. Miller's house into view. The porch light flickered, then dimmed completely. A shiver coursed through her. She stepped harder on the accelerator, the car picking up speed. The glow of the headlights cast erratic patterns on the trees, but the laughter remained, a cruel taunt in the stillness. Sweat dripped down her brow as she tried to focus, to shut out the sinister echoes. But the fear was relentless, an angry chant whispering that something was very wrong. Her thoughts raced to Alex. His soft laughter cutting through the tension on a gloomy evening haunted her. Just get home, she mumbled to herself, determination mixing with dread. Suddenly, the headlights behind her blinked, flickering on and off, a signal. It sent her adrenaline pumping as she realized she had no idea who or what was truly following her. Was it Ted? Or someone more menacing? With adrenaline blurring her judgment, she took a sharp turn onto a dirt road, hoping to lose her pursuers. The tires kicked up gravel, the noise echoing like thunder in her ears. But with each twist and dip, the laughter only grew louder. It encased her, wrapping around her heart like a vice. The headlights abruptly disappeared. She dared to breathe for a moment, the silence almost comforting. But the moment was fleeting. A fog rolled in, dense and disorienting, swallowing the surroundings. Just as she thought she was navigating to safety, a figure darted across the road ahead. Sarah slammed on the brakes, her car screeching to a halt. The shadow paused, just for a moment, before retreating into the underbrush. What? Sarah whispered, pulse pounding. Her instincts screamed danger, urging her to move. She turned off the engine, the darkness pressing in, thick as a blanket. Unsure what to do next, she sat there, a bead of sweat tracing down her neck. The quiet returned, almost inviting. She strained to hear anything beyond the sound of her heart rattling in her chest. No more laughter. No more headlights. Just the steady chorus of the night, a deceptive silence. With trembling hands, Sarah reached for her phone, but the screen was an abyss, her battery dead. Panic surged anew, pooling in her stomach like lead. She had to get out, had to know what was lurking in the shadows. As she stepped outside, the chill hit her like ice water. Straining her ears, she listened intently, but all she caught was the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Then she heard it, the faint sound of footsteps behind her. Louder. Closer. She spun around, knees trembling, her breath hitching in her throat. Someone was there, lurking in the fog, concealed in darkness. The haunting laughter erupted again, more sinister this time, echoing with desperate urgency as dread filled her heart. What do you want? Sarah shouted, panic gripping her voice. A figure emerged, the familiar outline combining features she recognized, the smile too wide, the eyes too hollow. We've been waiting for you, it said, the voice a chilling echo of the one she knew far too well. What had she wandered into? As fear coursed through her, allowing her to see the twisted truth for the first time, a chilling numbness settled. The line between friend and foe had blurred, and she was left with a question wrapping around her like chains. Who truly had been watching all along? The laughter hung in the air, coiling around Sarah like a serpent ready to strike. Her breath quickened, each inhale feeling sharper, more desperate. She stared at the figure stepping from the fog, dread pooling in her gut. Was it really him? The sight of his familiar features twisted into something grotesque made her want to recoil. Instead, she stood frozen in place, caught in the snare of reality bending against her. Why? She managed, her voice coming out raw and shaky. The figure's grin widened, a sinister stretch across its face that sent a shiver racing down her spine. You never listened, did you? It spoke, each word dripping with mockery. You were supposed to join us, to understand. Sarah's pulse thudded painfully, her instincts flagging an alarm that screamed to escape. But was this truly Alex? Please, she pleaded, stepping back, her foot crunching on gravel. Just let me go. A low giggle emerged from the shadows surrounding him, and others began to materialize, faces she didn't recognize, eyes gleaming with an unsettling hunger. They moved like phantoms, gliding through shadows, surrounding her slowly. Panic surged like a tidal wave, forcing her to turn and sprint back toward her car. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the fog closed in, clinging to her, thickening with every frantic step she took. Each stride felt heavier, as if the darkness itself were weighing her down. She frantically fumbled for the door handle, lungs burning and heart racing. "Why are you running?" The familiar voice taunted again, echoing through the mist. "You've always had a choice, Sarah." She glanced back, eyes wide with terror, as Alex's shadowy figure stepped closer, arms outstretched as if inviting her in. "Embrace the truth." "Stop!" she shouted, her throat raw. But they only shrieked with laughter in response, a cacophony of madness reverberating through the night. Desperately, she threw herself through the open door, slamming it shut. The small enclosure felt like the only safe haven in a world that had spun out of control. The engine sputtered to life under her touch as she cranked the ignition, a lifeline thrown against the uncertainty closing in. But as she looked in the rearview mirror, her heart dropped. The figures blurred in and out of the fog, their eyes glinting like hungry predators, mouths twisted in those mockingly wide smiles. Moving faster than her mind could process, she whipped the wheel and hurtled out of the driveway, fishtailing onto the road, barely keeping the car steady. Every bone in her body screamed to take control, but terror clouded her mind. The world outside blurred as she sped forward, the trees whipping past like dark sentinels still watching her retreat. Yet the laughter never ceased. It followed her into the depths of the woods. Each bend in the road held the promise of something waiting just beyond her vision. And then, from the back seat, she heard it again, a whisper, soft and chilling. "We'll always find you." Her stomach knotted painfully as the realization settled in like lead. She was not escaping. They were simply toying with her. With trembling hands, she fought back a surge of despair, willing herself to focus. Where to go? Where could she hide from them, from this nightmare? Then, ahead, the lights of a cabin flickered through the trees. It stood isolated, a beacon of hope or yet another trap. Sarah's breath quickened again, a new terror igniting inside her chest. What would she find there? Was it perhaps a refuge, or a sinister embrace waiting to pull her in? She pressed the accelerator, the hope and fear clashing fiercely in her mind as she charged toward the unknown. "Let it be safe," she whispered grimly. But shadows danced in the corners of her vision, and one thing became painfully clear: whatever lay ahead, she was far from alone, and the night had only begun. The cabin loomed closer, its dark silhouette a stark contrast against the moonlit sky. Heart racing, Sarah fought the urge to slam the brakes and spin around. She had to know if this place could offer her a moment of safety, or if it was merely a more sinister trap. As the tires crunched on gravel, she glanced in the rearview mirror, the shadows now reduced to faint whispers fading in the distance. But the laughter? It was still there, echoing in her skull. The cabin door stood slightly ajar, almost inviting her in. She hesitated, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Should she go inside? What if they were waiting there, playing a more elaborate game? A frigid gust of wind swept past her, ruffling her hair, as if pushing her toward the entrance. Come on, she muttered, almost begging herself. Stepping out of the car felt like stepping into another world. The air was charged, electric, thick with the scent of pine and something else, decay. With a shuddering breath, she approached the door and pushed it open. It creaked ominously, and she winced at the sound, every nerve ending on high alert. Inside, the cabin was dimly lit by a single flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling. Shadows clung to every corner, twisting into shapes that threatened to leap out at her. Her breath echoed in the silence, an unwanted reminder of how alone she felt. Cautiously, she took a few steps inside, and her foot grazed something on the wooden floor. She glanced down and recoiled. A collection of photographs lay scattered, faded images of smiling people. But as she studied them closely, her stomach twisted. The eyes of the subjects seemed to follow her, their smiles grotesquely wide, mouths painted as if caught mid-laugh. Get out, she whispered to herself, a shiver racing down her spine. But the laughter outside grew louder, a deluge crashing over her. They were coming for her. Panic surged. She needed to hide, to find a way to shield herself from whatever nightmare was crawling closer. A small door caught her attention on the far side of the room. It was narrow and looked old, but it might lead to a cellar or some place to escape. Rushing toward it, she yanked it open and plunged inside. Darkness enveloped her like a thick blanket. She could barely see, but she felt the cold earth beneath her. She stumbled down the creaky stairs, her heart hammering in her chest. The air grew damp and stale, the scent of mold clinging to her like a warning. At the bottom of the stairs, Sarah pressed her back against the wall and tried to calm her racing thoughts. The footsteps were not far away. They echoed through the floorboards above her like a heartbeat, growing louder. She could almost hear them breathing, whispering each other's names, calling for her. "Why won't you join us?" The mocking voice of Alex slipped through the cracks in her mind. "You can't escape what's inside you." Her fingertips brushed over something cold and metallic. She yanked it closer, revealing an old flashlight, its beam weak but manageable. Please work," she murmured, desperately flicking the switch. The light sputtered to life, casting an eerie glow over the damp walls. Shadows twisted around her, like fingers reaching for her, but she had to push forward. Then it hit her: the photographs. If they had brought her here to be part of their nightmare, perhaps they had done so before. She had to find out if these people were still alive or if they had become something like those lurking outside. With the flashlight clutched tightly, she took a step deeper into the cellar, where the walls began to close in. If the laughter was pulling her in, she needed to fight back. What if she discovered what they really wanted? "What is the truth?" she whispered, unnerved by how hollow hope felt against the chatter of madness. As Sarah ventured down the cramped passage, she couldn't shake the feeling that her own laughter might very well be the last thing she'd hear if she wasn't careful. The sound of scratching echoed faintly in the darkness behind her, and that's when she knew nothing truly ended the night. What had she unleashed by coming here? The darkness swallowed Sarah, pulling her deeper into its maw. The muffled sounds from above faded, replaced by the steady thrum of her own heartbeat. Each step forward felt like an invitation to whatever malevolence waited at the end of the passage. With every flicker of the flashlight, shapes danced on the walls, mocking her fears. She moved cautiously, feeling the damp, moldy walls close in around her. The air grew heavier, pressing against her chest like unyielding hands, squeezing out her breath. Suddenly, a louder sound pierced the stillness. A sharp thump reverberated from the far end of the tunnel. Her heart leapt. What could be lurking in the darkness? Was it them? "Stay calm," she told herself, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Deeper into the gloom, Sarah felt an icy touch accompany the laughter, more pronounced now, snaking around her, wrapping her mind in a haze of horror. Her fingers trembled against the flashlight as she strained to pierce the thick veil of darkness ahead. With a deep breath, she pressed on, each footfall echoing off the walls, reminding her she was not alone. Her thoughts raced. Could Alex and the others be down there too, or had they transformed completely, becoming part of the darkness she feared? "Why are you hiding?" The whisper slunk through the shadows, an intimate question dripping with malice. Panic surged anew. She fought the urge to bolt. The light flickered dangerously, and time seemed to stretch. Desperation clawed at her throat. "Are you scared of what you might find?" It was that voice again. The one she recognized from everything that happened before. The one she wished to forget. Suddenly, the beam of the flashlight illuminated the far wall graffiti scrawled in erratic strokes, desperate messages scratched into the surface. "They're coming for you, join us. And don't fight it." She recoiled, stepping back suddenly. An uneven, rusted surface jutted out from the wall. It was a door, a small, iron one barely visible in the dim light. The temptation to escape was overwhelming, but something deeper urged her to stay. "Don't go!" The voice crooned, playful yet sinister, echoing in her mind. The scratching begins again, louder this time, frantic. She stilled, trying to listen. It grew, echoing through the tunnels, as if a multitude of hands were clawing for her, desperate to pull her back. Sarah's instincts kicked in. The door. Heart pounding like a drum fueling a march into madness, she bolted toward it, trembling hands reaching for the rusty handle. She yanked it open, revealing a cramped space beyond. Inside was a small room barely more than a closet. But it was littered with the same photographs she had seen in the cabin. Faces. Joyful, laughing. And yet, each one was marked, scribbled over with the same detailed scrawls as before. Why do we keep returning? One photo read, eyes entirely too wide. Sick to her stomach, she slammed the doors shut and turned, but her breath caught. The passageway pulsed with malice. A shape began to form at the edge of her light, growing in intensity. It was formless at first, twisting and contorting, until it became something altogether darker, a semblance of laughter, twisted into a grin, filled with hollow promise. "You're one of us now, Sarah," it hissed, the sound reverberating through her bones. Mind racing, she spun around, but the door was closed. There was no escape. Trapped in a claustrophobic dance with shadows, the threat loomed closer. The scratching intensified, sounding ominously like nails trailing against wood, closing in on her surroundings. And behind her closed door, the whispers grew louder, chanting her name like a wicked hymn, urging her to surrender. What have I unleashed? She thought, feeling hopelessness burying her deeper into despair. Then the laughter exploded, replacing the darkness with a cacophony of noise. It rang in her ears like a funeral bell, relentless and maddening. She grasped the flashlight tightly, knowing the only way out was through the storm. As she prepared to face the noise and terror, a chilling realization coursed through her. What if the laughter had always been within her? Her breath hitched as she turned to confront the darkness one last time. But was she ready for the truth? Her heart raced as the shape inched closer, a swirling mass of shadows and laughter. Sarah forced her eyes wide, willing her vision to cut through the darkness. Each pulse of sound felt like a brick against her soul. She needed to break free, but the weight of her own dread anchored her feet to the ground. "You don't belong here," the thing taunted in a voice that wrecked her confidence, a serpentine whisper curling around her thoughts. Desperation tightened in her chest. She clutched the flashlight, aiming its beam straight ahead, hoping to push back the encroaching darkness, but it only seemed to draw nearer, eager and hungry. "Why did you come?" it urged, now inches from her face. Its breath, cold and rancid, clung to her skin. "Join us, Sarah." Laughter erupted, sharp and joyous, echoing in a cacophony off the damp walls. It sounded like the voices of her missing friends, distorted and mocking, and her heart twisted painfully at the thought of them. "Stop!" she shouted, the word tearing out in a fierce rasp. "Stop it!" But the laughter only intensified, a flood of noise that crashed over her every burst, a dagger of accusation. That sinister dread clawed at her mental defenses, inching her closer to madness. Sarah backed against the door, the room's dim light flickering as she pounded on the iron surface. It felt solid, perhaps a barrier against whatever malevolence lurked beyond. But the doorway was no refuge, it was her trap. She was a moth caught in their twisted web, and the shadows danced around, celebrating their impending feast. The presence pressed closer, the shadows warping into hands that reached for her. They swept over her and through her, and chills slid down Sarah's spine. It felt like an invasion of memories, friends smiling, laughing, but quickly turning to horrific images, mouths agape in silent screams. She gasped, suffocated by the weight of her regret. "Forget the light," the voices urged, a thundering roar in her mind. "Embrace the darkness. Let it in." "No!" she screamed, her voice breaking. "I want tea." But deep within, uncertainty mixed with doubt, a nagging whisper nagging at her mind. Did she want to let go of her pain? "I can free you," the darkness promised, a silky tone that sent chills racing through her. "Just let go of the burden. Join your friends in their joy." In an instant, a vision flashed in her mind. Alex's playful banter echoing in her ears, promising the adventure of a lifetime, now intertwined with endless despair. Each second dragged on as the laughter morphed, becoming more sinister, less human. Suddenly, the entire tunnel shook, a tremor that rattled her bones. The scratching escalated into a frenzied cacophony, as if the very walls were screaming. She turned to the door, uncertain, desperate to find anything a way out, a flicker of hope. Sarah! A voice sliced through the shadows, sharp and clear. She blinked hard, recognition sparking as the chaos briefly quieted. It was Alex! We're waiting! You can't leave us behind! Alex? Her heart surged, hope clashing against her instincts. Are you here? But before she could hold on to that glimmer, the laughter returned, softer now but more menacing. Oh, dear Sarah, it's sing-songed. He's not really here, not yet. But join us. You can be with him forever. Sarah shook her head, spilling tears of frustration. The darkness clawed at her resolve like a relentless tide, inching ever closer. She needed to make a choice. This was the moment. Choose. The thing hissed, its face morphing into a grotesque mockery of Alex. Leave behind the pain. Take my hand. You know you want to. Shivers coursed through her, an electric pulse of terror. She whipped around to the door, ready to either flee or surrender. But was there truly a way out? The walls vibrated again, and shadows surged forward, ready to consume her. What lay on the other side? Salvation or doom? The choice was hers, and time was running out. Panic surged through Sarah as she crashed against the door, her mind racing, heart pounding like a war drum. The shadows encroached, warm and malevolent, their deafening laughter a relentless echo in her skull. She could feel their cold tendrils gnawing at her sanity. How had it come to this? Choose. The voice hissed again, this time soaked in venom, each syllable dripping with malice. It was a taunt, an invitation to give in, to succumb to the festering darkness that loomed around her. Time is running out, little moth. Do you want freedom or do you want to fight? No. I won't. Tears streamed down her face as memories danced within her like specters of joy, of laughter, of what had been lost. Alex, his smile lighting up every corner of her world. Now, that joy twisted into despair, taunted by shadows ready to engulf her whole. In her mind, that flash of hope faded. She'd always heard that hope was a double-edged sword. Now she understood how deeply it can cut. The wall vibrated like a living thing, a shudder that shot through her legs and made her knees weak beneath her. Reality warped as shadows swirled into a vortex, pulling her toward an abyss, an endless maw receding into an unnameable void. Your friends want you, it crooned, the whispers merging into a symphony of long-lost voices, inviting her deeper into the darkness. Can you hear them? They're here. They're waiting forever. Liars! Sarah choked, scrambling for footing. With a surge of adrenaline, she aimed her flashlight into the black, the sharp beam cutting through the haze. It illuminated the grotesque faces forming out of the darkness, all distorted memories of the people she had loved. Their eyes were hollow, mouths stretched into eerie grins. They beckoned, pleading, mocking. Help us, Sarah! One of them wailed, Alex's face momentarily flickering before it twisted into something abhorrent, a grotesque blend of torment and joy that made her stomach churn. No! She yelled, shaking her head violently, desperation pooling in her chest. You're not real! You're not! The shadows lunged, a swirling tempest of rage, funneling towards her. The fluorescent beam of the flashlight began to falter, flickering like her dwindling hope. Join us! The malevolence screeched, a high-pitched wail surging through the air, drowning out her heartbeat. We can show you true happiness! Let go! As the last glimmer of light sputtered into darkness, Sarah felt a pull, a gravitational force dragging her toward the spectral figures. All her pain, the guilt of abandonment, the weight of grief tugged at her like an insidious tether, promising relief. She took a shaky breath, the air thick with despair. Was it time to give in? No! Fight! A distant voice echoed in her head, Alex's voice, once so warm, now just a whisper overshadowed by the shadows. But part of her trembled, thinking how easy it would be to surrender, to stop feeling, to stop fighting. In that moment she remembered why she came here in the first place, the promise of the truth hidden within the darkness. And a flicker of defiance ignited a fire in her heart that refused to die. Bolting forward with every ounce of strength she had, Sarah pushed against the door, her only hope as it shuddered in protest. I'll find you, Alex. I won't let you go. She screamed into the abyss, but the shadows recoiled, howling in fury. The door wasn't just holding them back. It was a barrier of another kind, something far worse than darkness awaited her beyond it. Suddenly, a blinding light pierced the void, briefly illuminating the grotesque figures. In that fleeting moment, she glimpsed the true horror. The door wasn't merely a portal to safety but to an even deeper nightmare of unimaginable fear and despair. Was she brave enough to open it? With trembling hands on the handle, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay on the other side of the door. What awaited her? Another trap? Or the painful truth she never wanted to face? The choice loomed larger than life, and the moment was now. The moment her fingers closed around the cold, metal handle, Sarah felt the world around her shift. The shadows throbbed in rhythm with her heartbeat, a dark choir urging her to step into the void. She hesitated, doubt creeping in like a vine wrapping around her throat. What if this was the end? What if she opened that door and was swallowed whole? Do it! The voice hissed with a mocking laugh. You can't escape. You've come this far, haven't you? You'll never make it back. The twisted streams of light filtered through the cracks of the door, illuminating the torment etched on the faces of her loved ones or the demons they had become. They grinned wider, shadows glistening in their eyes as the space between Sarah and the door shrank with every aching second. She took a breath, feeling the warmth of hope dodge the icy despair. I have to find out the truth. For Alex. With a sudden surge of determination, Sarah twisted the handle and flung the door open. An overwhelming rush of blinding light broke through the darkness, wrapping around her like a cocoon. She stumbled into a different world, a vast expanse filled with white mist. The air was thick, weighing heavily on her chest as if it were alive, pulsing with an unnatural energy. An echo of laughter danced on the periphery, weaving in and out of her awareness, taunting her in a language she didn't understand. Welcome! A disembodied voice sang, melodically eerie. It was both inviting and menacing, an urge to explore but laced with a thread of fear. We've been expecting you. Around her, shapes began to form within the mist, swirling and shifting like smoke. They were indistinct, yet hauntingly familiar. Each figure represented a thread of her past, Alex smiling, the old friends she had shut out, and the loved ones she mourned. They beckoned her closer, their hands extended, eyes sparkling with a brilliance that contrasted the chilling fog surrounding them. Why did you leave us, Sarah? One whispered, and it sent a shiver up her spine. I was scared, she stammered, the weight of truth clinging to her like a second skin. Scared? Another face asked, its voice slithering through her mind. But we can all be together again. Forever. Imagine the happiness. For a moment, she hesitated. The temptation was rich and intoxicating. The promise of eternal bliss shone like a beacon. All the pain, the loneliness, the guilt would dissolve, replaced by warmth and connection. She could be whole again. No! She shouted, backing away, her resolve waning. This isn't real. The figures laughed, jubilant yet mournful. They stepped forward, the mist swirling violently around them, revealing grotesque forms underneath their familiar faces, shadows of who they once were. Then come back to us, Sarah, they chanted. Join us in our eternal night, leave behind every shred of fear. Terror crashed into her chest with a sudden ferocity, clawing at her throat. She turned to flee, but the mist swallowed her, tendrils wrapping around her legs. The laughter grew louder, echoing in a maddening cacophony. She fought against them, but for every step she took, they surged closer, the faces morphing into monstrous figures whispering maddening secrets. You're just like us, lost. With panic lighting her veins, she screamed for Alex, the cry echoing against the walls of silence, swallowing her whole. And within that silence, another whisper emerged, darker, more sinister. You can never escape. We'll find you, even in light. A surge of adrenaline propelled her forward. She had to break this cycle. Had to wrench herself free from the grasping shadows that threatened to pull her back into the dark. Pushing through the mist, she caught sight of a distant flicker, another door shrouded in light. Hope ignited within her, forcing her to sprint toward it. But just as she reached for the handle, a familiar voice echoed from behind. Sarah, don't leave us again. She froze, the hairs on her neck prickling. Was it Alex? Could it be? The choice stood before her, the freeing light of potential escape, or the suffocating pull of that unbearable longing for connection. What awaited her beyond that door? Would it lead to salvation, or another face of the same terrifying truth? With her heart pounding, she hesitated, feeling the pull of darkness at her back. Was she ready to confront what lay ahead? Would she find the courage to open the door one final time? The door felt warm against her palm, a stark contrast to the chill creeping through her bones. With every second that she hesitated, the shadows behind her lurched forward, clawing at her resolve, a cacophony of tormented voices growing nearer, merging into a dissonant symphony of fear. A visceral chill swept through her as she turned, every instinct screaming for her to flee, to escape the call of those familiar voices morphing into unrecognizable wails. Don't go! The urgency in Alex's voice struck through her like lightning, igniting memories that crashed over her, laughter, warmth, and tenderness, now twisted by fear. Please! You know what waits for you. You can't trust them. Her pulse raced, heart thumping against her ribcage like a drum of impending doom. The figures in the mist morphed, their features warping from enticing familiarity to grotesque monstrosities. They reached for her, hands stretching through the haze like a swarm of insects eager to consume her. You're one of us now, Sarah. Don't turn your back on your family. Don't leave us. Glancing back at the door, the shaft of light beckoned her like a long-lost friend. The warm glow felt like hope, a precious moment in this unending darkness. But could it really be trusted? Wasn't it just more deceit, another layer of this macabre game? She steeled herself against the growing dread, gripping the door handle tighter. You're not real, she shouted, voice quivering yet defiant. You're just echoes of what I've lost. In response, the shadows shrieked, a sound that cut through her like glass. The air thickened, pressing tightly against her as the cacophony rose, a monstrous roar drowning her out. You can't escape who you are. You will always be lost. Gripping the handle, she pulled the door, resistant at first, finally gave way, swinging open with a groan that sent tremors through the ground. The brilliance inside pulled her in, a promise of freedom, yet it shimmered with danger. She felt its warmth envelop her, a soft embrace contrasting the cold despair trapped behind her. But in an instant, the comforting light flickered, dimming like a dying star. Something sinister lurked beyond, and Sarah's stomach twisted with dread. Shadows poured through the breach, lunging at her, and she stumbled back, colliding with the icy mist. Sarah! You belong with us! They cried in unison, their hands now gnarled claws. Desperation clawed at her throat. The decision hung heavy, the light or the darkness. Was Alex really there, pleading for her? Or was this yet another trick, twisting her heart with false hope? Gritting her teeth against the encroaching darkness, she made a choice. With a final push, she stepped into the light. Nothing. She fell through, tumbling into an endless void where time lost all meaning. Breathless, she grasped at the air, heart racing as she spiraled down, the haunting whispers growing fainter. Suddenly, she landed hard, and the world exploded back into existence. Only now, everything was different. She was alone. The mist had vanished. A strange stillness enveloped her, heavy and suffocating. Alex's voice was a mere echo now, fading into silence. Panic clawed at her insides. The shadows were gone, but so were all traces of the warmth she had chased. The ground beneath her trembled like a living entity, writhing in preparation for something sinister. Around her, shadows began to twist and swirl. They didn't scream anymore. They grinned. Welcome back, they beckoned in chilling unison, their voices coated in honeyed malice. We've much to discuss. What horrors awaited her now, stripped of the comforting masks of familiarity? Would she uncover the truth? Or had she stepped deeper into a realm where fear ruled and hope was a distant memory? As the black wind howled, she took a step forward. An icy realization gripped her. This game wasn't over. The fog lifted, revealing a path, and at its end, something monstrous awaited her, something that might just be greatest terror of all. Would she have the strength to face the truth lurking just beyond the veil? Or would the shadows claim her, body and soul, once and for all? The air felt heavier in Sarah's lungs as she took her first step on the barren path, trembling with every heartbeat. She was no longer darting between shadows, she was standing in the aftermath of a war with herself. A sense of emptiness enveloped her, deeper than the darkness that had encased her moments before. Each footfall echoed with doubts, slashing through her resolve. Was it just fear? Or something worse? Was it the emptiness of a soul lost in the cacophony of despair? Welcome back, that haunting chorus rattled through her bones, making her shiver. Those twisted faces, now faded memories, roamed freely, their laughter gentler yet dripping in malice. She could see them clearer now, the vacant eyes of those she had lost, eyes twisted and merciless, forever trapped in the play of light and dark, forever beckoning her. She pressed on, the gloom solidifying as she navigated the path. Shadows slithered at the edge of her senses, taunts whispering promises of comfort, of belonging if only she would let go. They urged her toward an iridescent door glowing faintly in the distance. Hope? Or another trap? Sarah, a familiar voice surged through the thick air. Alex's desperately echoing call rang out, a siren's song woven with urgency. Don't you want to be with us? Don't leave us behind. Her heart raced, pounding out a chaotic rhythm as she summoned courage for one last stand. Alex! She called, her voice quaking with emotion. Where are you? Turn back, the shadows lured, their voices entwined like vines choking her resolve. Join us in eternal night. You can't fight what's in you. The light shifted as she stepped toward the door, illuminating the edges of her despair. Leaning closer, she sensed warmth radiating from within, a stark contrast to the chill wrapping fiercely around her heart. It felt like freedom, it felt like decay. Was it worth the risk? Would stepping through that door lead her back to Alex? But was the price too high? Open it, Sarah, the chorus urged. You belong here. With us. The door loomed larger, glistening like a mirage, a beckoning promise that held the weight of 1,000 souls. It tempted her, whispering all the things she'd wanted in life, a comfort that towed the line of desperation. Trembling hands reached toward the handle, a decision spiraling in the depths of her mind. She could feel the shadows closing in, urging her toward the safety of the familiar, where she wouldn't be alone anymore. But a flame flickered within her, a memory of laughter, of vibrant afternoons with Alex, not nightmarish visions of twisted faces. The shadows shivered, sensing her inner conflict, sensing her doubt. It was time to sever the ties. She was fighting for more than herself now. In a heartbeat, she yanked the door open wide. The burst of light enveloped her like a warm embrace, an explosion of joy and clarity cascading through her being. The shadows recoiled, howling in rage as she stepped through into the blinding radiance. It surrounded her, filling the crevices of despair and scooping her gently away from the darkness. As she breached the threshold, the laughter dimmed, and she found herself standing alone, but at peace, no weight of loss, no crippling fear. Alex? She whispered, her last shred of longing melting into the brilliance. She wasn't sure where she was, but she could feel hope shimmer through the universe. Sarah! A rush of warmth accompanied the sound, filling the void as Alex materialized beside her. He looked just as she remembered, radiant, whole and smiling, his joy bursting through the remnants of shadows that had haunted her. You made it! She threw herself into his open arms, swirling back into the light of what life once meant. The darkness began to retreat, peeling away, revealing a landscape of vibrant colors, laughter echoing, friends emerging in joyful reunion. It's over, she breathed, wrapping her arms around him tighter, feeling weightless at last. But remember, they will always be watching, Alex warned softly, a serious note threading through the joy. The realization settled in her chest, the urgency returning. The darkness may have receded, but shadows have a way of creeping in when one's not looking. With a heavy heart, Sarah nodded, but her spirit felt different now. She had faced that fear, she had broken the cycle of despair. As she looked into Alex's eyes, she felt a fierce fury rise within her, a determination not merely to escape, but to uncover the secrets of those haunting shadows, to protect herself and the love she held dear. Together, she whispered fiercely, "We'll forge the light." And as the radiant landscape flourished before her, Sarah stepped forward, no longer caged by fear, but driven, ready to be brave, ready to fight in the light against what lay ahead. If you enjoyed this spine-chilling conclusion, this is your moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss future stories that grip your heart and chill your spine. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. We rely on you to keep the magic alive. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I love hearing from you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.